Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Wednesday evening, so let's begin right now. First up, states reimpose COVID-19 mandates to combat Delta variant. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
So glad you recommended these Anderson windows, John.
Trust me, they'll be looking good for a long, long time. And with fewer callbacks on them, I kind of doubt you'll be seeing me.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We're going to begin tonight with the push from federal, state, and local governments and private corporations to try and stop America's fourth wave of the pandemic. In fact, tonight, Apple telling us they will now require masks in more than half of its roughly 270 U.S. stores. That's starting tomorrow, and that's the first major retailer to take such a big step. And in a sign that the country is slipping further back in the fight against the coronavirus, the CDC is warning that new COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are likely to increase over the next 4 weeks. And with 100 million eligible Americans still unvaccinated, the pressure is increasing on the FDA to issue final approval of COVID vaccines so states can have more legal authority to require those shots. But there's some Republican lawmakers that say governments can't enforce these new requirements. Plus, there's some new Pfizer data tonight from a small study. A third dose of its shot strongly boosts protection against the Delta variant, but there's no word on when people could need that booster shot. So there's a lot to sort out, and we have two reports tonight, beginning with CBS's Omar Villafranca in Mississippi, where vaccine rates are lagging and hospitals are packed. Good evening, Omar.
Good evening. Mississippi reported more than 1,800 new COVID cases today. Here at St. Dominic's, they're getting ready. They're going to be adding 24 beds to their COVID ward, and doctors and nurses are getting mentally prepared for the next surge. COVID patients are again filling up the rooms at St. Dominic's in Jackson. For the doctors and nurses,
I'm very concerned about PTSD. I'm worried about burnout. I'm worried about them questioning their choices of going into healthcare.
Mississippi continues to have one of the nation's highest rates of infections and one of the lowest vaccination rates.
Non-vaccinated.
On Tuesday, there were also 6 more reported deaths, including a child. In the past week, more than 38,000 new cases were reported nationwide, just among children. To the CDC, the vaccine is the key to victory over the variant.
If we get people vaccinated who are not yet vaccinated, if we mask in the interim, we can halt this in just a matter of a couple of weeks.
If masks are the first step, they were hard to find at this packed concert in Southwest Missouri. On Monday, the city of St. Louis reinstated a mask mandate.
Public servants!
But last night,
They will not comply!
St. Louis County voted to overturn it. Today, Google and Facebook became 2 of the largest companies to require vaccinations for all U.S. employees before they can return to work. Back in Mississippi, the COVID map now looks like this. Red indicates the highest level of community transmission. How do you not get frustrated or angry every day coming into work?
I think you do.
Dr. Reginald Martin caught COVID and was a patient at his own hospital.
2 weeks before my hospitalization, I rode a bike 75 miles. 2 weeks after my infection, I couldn't walk to the bathroom without getting short of breath.
Now, he combats hesitancy.
What do you tell them? How do you ignore, or how do you logically choose to not get vaccinated? It's incredibly frustrating to know that you could have done something different, that you are potentially a threat to my health.
73 patients are being treated at St. Dominic's right now for COVID, but there's another issue they are dealing with, the lack of nurses. They're looking to hire 100 nurses, but there's a shortage. Now, this shortage happened before COVID, but many are worried that the pandemic may scare some of those people away from the profession. Nora?
Once again, worried about our healthcare professionals. All right, Omar Villafranca, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Biden to announce COVID vaccine requirements for federal workers. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
President Biden and his team is weighing what they can legally do to get more Americans vaccinated, starting with federal employees. And we're learning tonight that the Justice Department believes federal law does not prohibit those vaccine requirements. CBS's Weijia Zhang reports now from the White House.
President Biden was in Pennsylvania today promoting his economic recovery plan, which could be derailed by the deadly Delta variant.
If you're not vaccinated, protect yourself and the children out there. It's important.
But nearly 40% of adult Americans are not fully vaccinated. The president is expected to announce Thursday that all federal workers, including contractors, about 10 million people, must be vaccinated or undergo regular COVID testing.
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
New York just implemented similar rules today for all state employees, following New York City and California earlier this week.
One thing I learned from the first go-around, this is happening in other places. So learn from that experience, and we're doing that.
But the union representing 26,000 federal law enforcement employees is pushing back ahead of the administration's announcement, saying forcing people to undertake a medical procedure is not the American way and is a clear civil rights violation. In addition to regular testing, unvaccinated federal workers will have to social distance and could have their travel restricted. Burdens the White House hopes will convince people to get their shots.
If those other 100 million people got vaccinated, we'd be in a very different world.
Also tonight, President Biden says he is pleased that senators have reached an agreement on a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan after Republicans agreed to move forward. At a time when Congress is so divided, the president said this signals to the world that our democracy can function. Nora?
Weijia Zhang, thank you.
I was interested in cool sculpting elite because I have this little problem area. I wouldn't call it so much as a problem as a slight.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Colorado officers charged after violent arrest. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
Well, there is outrage in Aurora, Colorado tonight. 2 police officers there have been arrested, including one who pistol whipped, choked, and threatened to shoot a man who had a warrant out for his arrest. We want to caution you that the body cam video is violent. Here's CBS's Jeff Pegues.
Body camera video shows Officer John Hubbard ordering Kyle Vinson to lie face down and show his hands.
Hands all the way out. Hardcore breathe, dude.
The officer hits Vinson at least 7 times with his pistol and later holds him by the neck for almost 40 seconds. Vinson's father says he was shocked by what he saw.
I thought he was gonna die.
Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson said she is disgusted.
This is not police work. This is not the Aurora Police Department. This was criminal.
There have been several other high-profile police-involved incidents in Aurora.
We'll give that a couple minutes.
In 2019, 23-year-old Elijah McLean died after police put him in a neck hold and paramedics injected him with ketamine. Since becoming chief, Wilson has terminated 14 officers for misconduct. Officer Hubbard now faces multiple felony charges for his treatment of Kyle Vinson, including second-degree assault and attempted first-degree assault. Jeff Pegues, CBS News, Washington.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Millions face evictions as moratorium nears end. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
All right, tonight, anxiety is growing across the country as a federal ban on evictions is set to expire on Saturday. Remember, the moratorium was put in place at the height of the pandemic and economic downturn. Congress approved $47 billion in assistance. But as CBS's Janet Shamlian explains, renters are having a hard time getting the aid.
Lavina Harvey is well aware the federal moratorium on evictions ends Saturday.
I'm terrified. The job offers are coming in, but they're coming in very slowly.
The Las Vegas mom of 2 teens lost both her jobs during the pandemic, unable to pay her $900 a month rent.
When you walk up to your door and you see an eviction notice,
it's the hardest thing to see in the world when you know that you're a single mother and you have no one to turn to. You will be homeless.
Harvey has been approved for more than $9,000 in federal rent help through a local program. The money hasn't come through yet. More than 8,000 other renters in Nevada's Clark County are still waiting for an approval. Despite billions in federal dollars available, some counties and states have been slow to dole it out. Like Nevada, which has given out more than $3 million of almost $125 million available.
Tenants really have no idea where to turn to for help. They don't know if they're protected, if they're not protected. So a lot of tenants are just kind of frozen.
Even with a moratorium in place, property owners across the country have filed almost 500,000 eviction petitions. The Treasury is now promoting a website of resources at consumerfinance.gov.
The tool allows you to go online and to find out where in your local community you can go to apply for rental assistance. Money if you're behind on rent, if you're close to being evicted.
Lavina Harvey, like so many, has found the path to rent relief a complicated road.
It was very hard, but I took the time to educate myself. And I felt like the more that I read and educated myself, the better I could protect myself.
Janet, it's incredible. We're talking about 15 million people, half of them children. So why is it so hard for them to access these billions of dollars in federal aid?
So bottom line, while it's the federal government that's actually giving out the money, it's been left to states and counties to figure out how to distribute it. And there is no uniform system in place to do that. Nora?
Janet Shamlian, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And we are going to switch gears now and let's go into weather. Let's take a look at your weather for this evening, for tonight. Boston, 62 degrees. New York, 70 degrees. Washington, 72 degrees. Charlotte, 73 degrees. Atlanta, 71 degrees. Jacksonville, 75 degrees. Tampa, 77 degrees. Miami, 78 degrees. New Orleans, 81 degrees. Houston, 79 degrees. Dallas, 80 degrees. Phoenix, 84 degrees. Los Angeles, 66 degrees. Las Vegas, 85 degrees. And San Francisco, 56 degrees. That is a look at your weather tonight. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching and have a great evening. Good night and goodbye.